Though they miss out in the postseason for the first time since 2013. And for more on the reported drama in their locker room, here's our very own Aditi Kinkhabwala.
The Steelers wrapped up a disappointing and drama-filled season with disappointment and a bit more drama. Antonio Brown was not at the team's exit meeting Monday, and multiple players told me he was seen nowhere near the facility. This comes after Brown missed the team's Saturday walkthrough, after he missed multiple days of practice because of a surprise knee injury, and after he had a disagreement with Ben Roethlisberger at Wednesday's walkthrough. Multiple members of the organization told me his unavailability to play in Sunday's must-win game against the Bengals took much of the team by surprise. And more than one player told me the team's hapless first-half effort was partly because they were out of sorts over the situation. And so, as the Steelers closed this year, there were several promises of stronger player leadership and more player-driven accountability of each other. Veteran Joe Hayden told me, "We're close." And tight end Vance McDonald talked at length about why chemistry is so key.
Human beings in general, man, we're all about relationships and just interaction in general, just in a bunch of times throughout the day. Man, if you don't have connections and camaraderie and just that thing that you can't measure among a team, it's huge. You think of Le'Veon, and it was a big thing that rode with us for a long time this season. But it's just, how do you go about them? I'm not saying like there's a right answer, but at the same time, man, it's things that you have to handle. And you don't obviously wish for things like that to happen, but at the same time, man, at the end of the day, you want to have your roster, and you want your roster to want to be here.
Now, a Steelers spokesman would not tell me if Brown will be disciplined for missing Saturday's walkthrough. I was told that Mike Tomlin will address all those questions. He, of course, will meet with the media Wednesday.
We'll be looking forward to that. Aditi, hopefully you get some rest. I know it's been a busy 24 hours for you there in Pittsburgh. And here at the breakfast table, I mean, we saw this all unfold yesterday. We're, talking to each other after the show as it sort of went on New Year's Eve. And Nate, I'm going to go to you right here. How do you feel about Antonio Brown's role in all this?
Well, one, let me say, it's wrong for him to leave at halftime. I've sat on the sideline with broken ribs, torn ACL, broken leg. Now, leaving practice, I can't speak on that. If he wants to get a second opinion, he gets a second opinion. But my image of the game, it wasn't necessarily the tough game that ended up being a battle in the fourth quarter. It was him sitting on the sideline in that jacket, looking like Nino Brown. Speaking of Nino Brown, it's one of my favorite movies, New Jack City. Love it. And Wesley Snipes in there said it's bigger than Nino Brown. Now, moving on to my second point. It is bigger than Antonio Brown. Le'Veon Bell didn't show up. It's bigger than Nino Brown. Big Ben, in offseason, he said, I'm thinking about retirement. That was following a game the previous season where he was like, maybe I don't have it. It's bigger than Nino Brown. Mike Tomlin, he's throwing flag after flag after flag. He's made poor decisions when it comes to timing and taking care of the time in a game. It's bigger than Nino Brown. All these things are happening. We could easily say, well, Antonio, why didn't you play? Why didn't you tough it out? Why didn't you leave at halftime? But it's bigger than Antonio Brown. So you can trash Antonio, and I'm fine with that. But just remember, money talks, BS runs a marathon. So see, you wouldn't want to be it. And that's what he's thinking. And if you don't take care of Antonio Brown, you don't take care of Big Ben, like you let Le'Veon Bell go, it's going to be rockabye, baby.
What if I say that's the most entitled athletic move I've ever seen? This is an athlete who's paid to do a job, and he can't support his teammates, and he's saying, my knee hurts, and he leaves. I mean, that's what the fans are saying. How entitled...
You're right. The first thing I said is he was wrong. That's the first thing I said. You're right. I agree with you 100%. He should have stood there and stuck it out and watched his team and support his team.
I sympathize with Antonio Brown. I can see why he would be upset. I mean, it's tough. It's tough to make $17 million a year and have a Hall of Fame quarterback who gets you 100 catches every year, have the best number 2 in football, be on a team that contends for the playoffs every single year. You show up to training camp in a damn helicopter. It's tough. Really, I can see he has a lot of reasons to be upset. You know what Antonio Brown needs? I've said it for years. I think he's the coolest player in football. Don't go where we can't follow you. There's nothing cool about this. Sometimes I think in life, all of us need to be reminded of our place in life. I'll break the fourth wall here. I complain sometimes the hours of this job are difficult, and my wife always says, you get to talk about football for a living. Do you remember some of the crappy jobs you used to have? If I was advising Antonio Brown, I'd be just like, this is the guy you need to remember, Antonio, not the business is booming guy, the 2010 Combine guy who was a 6th-round punt returner from Central Michigan who signed a $70,000 signing bonus, who nobody wanted and nobody cared about. He wore number 84 because 32 teams passed him, and 8 times 4 is 32. Meanwhile, he has the greatest setup you could ever want, ever, as a wide receiver. And the day after his team misses the playoffs, he's on Twitter flirting with the 49ers and saying this is big. Did you see these tweets? George Kittle says, "Sup, 84," which is kind of funny. Kittle's getting in on it. And AB just tweets right back, starry-eyed, "Go ahead, go play with the 49ers. See how much you like playing out there when you're not on national television all the time. You have no quarterback situations can get you 100 catches. Go enjoy it. Because meanwhile, appreciate what you have in this. You're the coolest player on one of the best teams. I don't know why you're crapping on it, but it pisses me off as a fan."
It's fair, and I think a lot of Steelers fans are feeling like, what else can we provide you? I mean, you've got to can't you be good to us back? We love you. We want you to be good. In all my years covering the NFL, I can't recall a team that had more talent on paper and more talent on the roster ever missing the playoffs. The fact that this team, with all the stars that they have,
didn't even get a wild card,
missed the playoffs and could not get a wild card in a year where crazy things happen is beyond me. And I'll say this, this thing doesn't start with Antonio Brown. It doesn't end with Antonio Brown. It's bigger than that. It's culture. It's locker room culture. I was so taken aback all year, and you guys almost laughed at me the way I would be so taken aback with how Le'Veon Bell's teammates treated him throughout this process. Le'Veon Bell was making a stand for the player, saying, I want more money. I think I deserve more money. And his fellow laborers, his guys who are supposed to be on the front lines against management, all sided with management. The coaching staff sided with management and said, don't pay Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell is a cancer. Le'Veon Bell is toxic. We're going to go on without him. We can't be here. We only want volunteers. We don't want hostages. Imagine the players rallied around their teammate and said, pay that guy. We love that guy. Mm-hmm. What would that have done? So you look at all the offensive linemen criticizing Le'Veon Bell in the start of the year, and then I go to the day after Le'Veon Bell doesn't show up. He's sacrificing $14 million. And what was the scene in the locker room? I've showed this video time and time again. The scene in the locker room when Le'Veon Bell decides not to show up, they're sitting at his locker, and they are playing with his sneakers and his shoes, and they're divvying them up, and everybody's laughing. Take a look at Alvin Bud Dupree the day after Le'Veon didn't show up.
Yeah, man. Appreciate the cleats, my guy. Appreciate the cleats, my guy, man. You know what I'm saying? But I hope you're the best, man. Wish you success, my guy. But appreciate the cleats, man. I'm taking all off and on, bro. Much love.
Haha, funny. Our fellow teammate didn't show up. We're going to steal his sneakers, and we're going to laugh about it with the media. It was never right here. This season was never right. Those guys never were all on board together. And in the end of the day, you know who has the last laugh? Le'Veon Bell.
Things would have been different.
Great point on that. You've been saying it all year. You really have. Should they trade Antonio Brown? Should they look at it?
They can't. Unlike the Seahawks, you can't just get rid of guys. These are your cornerstones of your team.
Juju looks pretty good.
Can't trade Antonio.
Can't trade him.
One of the best players in football. Tough. Good question.